I've sprayed as much as I can from inside the yard, so I'm going to be moving my hose actually over to another thingamajig that's up by my house, and hopefully that one will work and it won't spray water all over everything. I haven't even tried turning it on yet since this whole thing started. So I'm going to turn a little thingamajig here and turn this thing off. At least I hope it turns off the first time and I get it turned the right way, not turning it up. And now I need to spray a little bit on my lawn because there's water in the hose, which will make it really heavy. So I'm going to try to get it to spray as much water out as possible. Wow. Looks like a lot of the pressure is already gone. Wow. So anyway, so now I'm going to move everything up to the front of the house and kind of do the same thing over again. So until there's something a little bit more interesting coming on, I'll be signing off, and I'll be back with you a little bit later in today and give you the rest of the account of today and how things are going and all the things I have to do. Besides this, I also have a crochet project that I need to work on, and I have stuff in the house like, oh, maybe vacuuming my carpets finally. That would be a good thing. So I'll sign off for now, and I'll get back to you on something that might be just a tad more interesting than me just spraying weeds. So I'm back again. Just a few minutes later, I started doing the next half of my front in my yard, and I got all the way out to the end, and everything was going really well. The water was flowing and everything, except then it started flowing out of the plastic thing on the end of the bottle of poison. So now I've got to figure out what's happened with that, and hopefully the nozzle on it is okay, because I hate to have to buy a whole new bottle of those things just because the bottle, and that's a problem with these plastic fittings that they have. So anyhow, I will be back and report. So I finished the front of my yard, and just to give you an idea of how much hose there is, I'm going to start pulling it. I turned the water off, and I'm going to empty as much of it as I can out here on this thing, which just really empties the part of it that happens to be pull it all, because I've got to take and move this hose again to the thingamajiggy that's at the back near my garden, and so I can get that back part, and I should be able to get that back part including my dog's yard, which means I have to bring him in from his yard, so I don't want him to eat the grass that's got the poison on it. And it's perfectly safe. They say once it dries on their leaves, it's not going to hurt him, but until then he's going to have to stay out of his back garden or his backyard. And I hate to do that to him, but such is life. You know, we all have things to suffer. You know, the longer it takes to do this stuff, I'm actually getting older by the minute here, and so my life is shortening by the minute here. And so the faster I get this done, the less of that life that's left in me lessens a little bit, so that I can use it for something more productive, or even maybe something, it would be nice if I could do something just that I really, really, really like to do. But the yard has to be done too, otherwise the neighbors will start complaining, the city will start complaining, and I hate to have to invite the city to come over and tell them to come over and clean up my yard, because they'll charge me an arm and a leg to do that. So, and I don't have an arm and a leg. I can't afford to lose arms or legs right now because I'm just too busy and I need them both. So for now, I'm going to be pulling this hose up, and then I'll be signing off a little bit while I move everything to the back. Ooh, lots of hose. Lots and lots and lots of hose. And I need to avoid these things, so I have to untwist it. Because somehow, no matter how much you untwist them, they get twisted again. They just manage to twist themselves, I think. But one would think that as heavy as this hose is, that it would have trouble twisting itself. So anyway, this is kind of what I have to do, and I'm going to be taking this hose then off of my front thingamajiggy and hook it into my back thingamajiggy and start this whole process over again. And so while I'm doing that, rather than bore you with my moving my hose and spraying it, moving my hose and spraying it, moving my hose and spraying it, which would be nice if I could afford to have a hose on each spigot, or, oh yeah, that's not a spigot, it's a bib. But then it doesn't look like a bib either, it looks more like, it resembles a faucet. So is it a bib, is it a spigot, or is it a faucet? Hard to tell. I guess it all depends on who you're talking to. So whatever it is and wherever it is, I'm just going to hook it up on the thingamajig, and that's what I'm going to call it. So hang in there. I'll be back a little bit later. So I've got the hose moved all the way back to the back thingamajig, and I'm just going to let you know, since I'm in the back, my little dog LB, he really likes to be where he can see me, because I think he thinks he's protecting me, but behind a fence it's a little bit hard and I can't let him out of the fence. I'll tell you why in a minute. But let's see if I can get a shot of LB here. I don't know. The best way to do this would be so here's a shot of LB through the fence, but he likes to stay there. Now that I'm in the back, he can see what I'm doing, and he knows that I'm safe, and he knows that he's safe. We're all safe. I can't let him out of his fenced yard without a leash, because I have a restaurant right across the street, and he's a beagle, and a beagle is one of the best scent dogs there is. And so he gets a scent and he's going to run for it, and he did it once before and we had trouble finding him just around that restaurant. So anymore, I'm very careful about letting him out of the yard unless there's a leash on. So anyway, I'm going to go and finish up this last part of my lawn. Actually, it's a second to the last part of my lawn, and I'll report back later. So I just finished spraying all the weeds in my massive lawn and the back of my house, which is also massive. The biggest problem I've always had in the past was that with the shorter hoses, the little water thingamabobs that they have, they're only in the front yard. And there's a couple of places that doesn't have them, so I always have to water them anyway. But surprise, surprise, with 100 feet and the thingamabobby that's out closest to the backyard gate, I was able to get the dog's yard and all the way around the back of my house, which because the previous owners decided they wanted to put rocks in the back when they tried to sell the house, and when I decided to buy it, I told them, nope, I don't want the rocks, stop doing the rocks. And so we wound up having to take a bunch of rocks out, but I don't know what to do with the ones that are actually in the back of my house. And they kind of did it the right way. I mean, they put this weed blocker fabric down. What they didn't realize was when you put the weed blocker fabric down over time, dirt and stuff comes down from the mountains and blows in the air, and it winds up settling on top of that. And so you got dirt in there, so the weeds can't come through the fabric, but the weed seeds can germinate on top of the fabric, which makes it easy to pull. They're really not hard to pull because they don't have a good root system, but at the same time there's a ton of them, and it just takes a long time for me to get them all out. Usually it's like fall before I get them all out, but I was able to take the hose and put it through my back gate and all the way through and to the backyard and around the back of the house, and be able to spray all those weeds. Now the question is, my experience with a lot of these weed killers is that they don't work as well as they claim they work. You get some of the weeds, some of them don't. So we're going to see how many weeds actually die. They claim They're not claiming within 3 hours anymore, but they are claiming overnight. So we'll see if the weeds are at least wilting overnight. And if they are, great, that's gravy. Then I can let them all die and then take a rake and rake them all up. So anyhow, that's kind of my report for today. And I've taken my 100-foot hose and I've kind of reeled it up sort of in front of my house next to the thing that's in the front of the house. And I've decided that my hose kind of has a mind of its own. So I'm going to have to probably, maybe this payday, go out and buy a hose reel that I can just wind it on. I had one in my yard in Illinois, and it was really great because I could just wind it. But the surprise was this is really a lightweight hose, actually. The water comes out of it pretty fast, and I was surprised that it didn't take a small army to reel it in and to put it up in the front yard, even though it had a mind of its own. So that's a plus too, so I don't have to worry about lifting this massive amount. Now, the other thing I'm concerned with, and the next thing, is am I going to get salt for my water softener? I told my son I needed it, and before he left, if he would please do it for me. I don't look forward to having to do it myself, and if I do, you'll probably find it very funny, some of the things that I have to do in order to get that salt in the water softener. But I usually manage to do it. But we're going to see if my son will do it first. If he leaves without doing it, then I guess I'm going to have to go and I'm going to have to wrestle with him myself. So that'll be another episode in the life of a lonely old lady. And there's many other things as well. So right now, this lonely old lady is going to rest a bit and just sit down and watch TV and probably take up my crochet project and start working on that again. So as I'm starting to work on Christmas presents for next Christmas, which I'm going to need all this time to finish this project. So, so goodbye for now, and we will talk to you a little bit later.